Okay, so really quick, I've done videos previously on, I did one video on the configuration of the Ghost phone, which is a GrapheneOS-based phone. And basically what I've gone and done is I've set up a profile here for it that has basically everything installed or a pretty good analog to whatever is installed. Because there are some things that aren't quite installed that are on the phone that, are there. And so it was kind of difficult to find what there was and put it on properly. So if we open up here, I've gone over the list previously, but here's the list that we're looking at. So some of these I already had installed. Others of them weren't installed already, so I had to go and install them otherwise. And some of them I was looking at and they look actually pretty good from a preview of like one or two of them. And some of them I use regularly already, like the Futo voice input. But yeah, this is what we're looking at. So, yeah, I believe that's everything. It's not an expansive list, but it is a pretty good list. So you've got your Proton Drive, your Proton Mail, and your Proton VPN. They don't recommend you using that. In fact, they basically recommend you uninstall that, but there are a lot of people that still use it. So if you use those services, that's there for you, that they pre-install for you. So all I'm going to do is remove all these. And then it'll go off pretty well. Where is it? So for the next thing, I just ate. So anyway, the next thing we've got Molvad VPN, which comes installed. We've also got, what is it? I already went over Proton VPN. Where was there another one? I don't think there was. Maybe. So, yeah. It would be that. Rust, that, again, if you use Molvad, that's like $10 a month is what I was looking at or something like that for that. You've also got RustDesk and Zorin Connect as two remote desktop options. RustDesk seems to do RDP. So if I go, I can pop in a remote ID if needs be. Let's see, we've got chat, screen share, and so on. So you can see I was going through working really hard. And then here's our Zorin Connect. We're not going to allow that for now. So if I had like the Zorin Connect stuff installed on, I'd be able to run with that. I thought about changing this to dark mode theme, but yeah, I never got around to doing it. So I don't really use remote desktop that much, but they're there. Breezy Weather is one that I've installed previously. So I can add a new location if I search for like Salt Lake City. I can get Bengal. I can choose my weather sources. Then when I tap it, the advantage of Breezy Weather is that it also interfaces with Gadget Bridge as a method of relaying weather over to your like Pine Time and things like that. And you guys know that I have a Pine Time and I kind of like using it. I've had my issues with it previously, well, somewhat with transitioning between phones. So I've got to figure some of that stuff out. But other than that, it's pretty nice. So we've got weather, voice recorder, the Fossify one. I've used that a little bit. Mail, Thunderbird. I've debated on trying out Thunderbird, but I'm pretty comfortable with Fair Email, and it's actually run really nicely for me, so I haven't quite worried about it. I've been debating on paying for the Pro one, and also like pitching in money to Futo for the keyboard because I use the voice input a lot. more particularly when I'm driving. Yeah, but that is neither here nor there. So I've got a couple scripture apps on my phone already. But they come with The Life, which is one of the Bible apps there. It does look pretty clean compared to some of the ones that I've done before or used otherwise. Customized Bibles. So they don't have, they don't have as large of a library of Bibles and translations as, say, what was it? And Bible, I think it has, in commentaries and whatnot. So if I go to F-Droid, which they pre-install for you, not Droidify, I can go into here, Bible, and Bible. That's the one. This is basically one of the ones that I have installed already, and it's really nice because I can run through multiple different translations in different languages. And one, when you are at least bilingual, you get a lot of different context on things, or you can, and then it has its library of commentaries as well, and a whole bunch of other features. It seems more archaic than The Life is, and it's not as basic, but if you're a power user, you probably would install And Bible over The Life, in my honest opinion. Okay, so it's dimmed the screen, so now we've got that radio one. Radio Droid. So this has just a whole host of radio stations. So we could go classic vinyl. Yeah. So if you like radio stations, that may be your jam in streaming them. I might keep that around, actually, honestly. Anyway. That one, I think, so let's see. Zorin Connect came from F-Droid. Rust Desk, I think, most of them come from F-Droid. You can install them from F-Droid, but there are a couple like Magic Earth that you can't do that with. They're only available in the Play Store, so hence Aurora Store is there. So yeah. Quick is the SMS app that I use all the time. It's my daily driver SMS app. So it's a fork of QK SMS. It's got more features in it since over time, and yeah. So Organic Maps is kind of standing in place of offline maps. I'm pretty sure it's the same app at the end of the day, because it's what came up. Let me change the display screen timeout. So that we don't have that going crazy on us. And I'm going to turn that off too. And obviously I don't normally use the gestures navigation, but it's what's on by default. So yeah, take that with a grain of salt. But yeah, Organic Maps stands in place of offline maps. I've done a video on it previously. OSM and it's got the Grave at the end versus the Plus that they have installed. I'm pretty sure it's the same deal because it's got the Plus in it. But this is one of the other map apps that they have. They give you 3 choices. So it halfway feels like it's Ultimate Edition, but for a more privacy-minded person in a smartphone. So that's basically what you're dealing with, is a whole bunch of apps, and then you go through, figure out what works better with your workflow, and dial down on what you need. So, for example, I'd hardly use this, even though I have it installed and everything. I'd probably remove that and keep Organic Maps around in Magic Earth. I do have Google Maps installed in my Googled profile, in the Field Nation profile, just in case. But yeah. So, of course, you've got the defaults with GrapheneOS, but then there's Notes as well. This is just a simple Notes app. from the Fossify notes. So we can go in here, do like a new checklist, check. So we can add a checklist item, chechen. Yeah. If we hit that, we can see our open notes. I haven't used it before, so yeah. If that's not your jam, again, I've generally used Marcor for a lot of that stuff, but like Obsidian still exists somewhat on mobile, and that's pretty decent. Nextcloud, obviously, I think I've done a couple things on Nextcloud. I've got my own instance set up at home, but yeah. And then there's the music player. This is a Fossify music player. And again, it's pretty basic. It looks about like 75% of the music players out there on F-Droid now. So, and that one, because GrapheneOS doesn't have a music player by default, is one that they include because a lot of people still like to keep music on their phone. Magic Earth, I've done a video on previously. KeyPass DX. Password Manager, it does have its own keyboard input stuff. So we can add a database, we can save that database, we can create a super secure password. Okay, so now we can do that. We can add items to the database, like we could add something here, and it would create random passwords for us, just like most other password managers. But yeah, we've got Joplin, which is, again, notes. You can synchronize your notes, however it works. So a lot like Obsidian, you can use like sync thing and whatnot to sync up and all. So, or even one Nextcloud. So you can control your note data just like anything else. Let's see. So the one thing, as I've noticed over the last little bit with Graphene, is the gallery app does seem kind of dated, and I've gotten used to like the newer, more updated gallery apps. So yeah. Take that for what it's worth. Futo voice and Futo keyboard. So we can go into input methods. We enable that. And then we can switch input methods to Futo. We've got our language models and whatnot. Again, this is local AI running on your phone. So when it asks you about like the voice models, you can recognize that otherwise. We can add a keyboard layout, for example, too. So we could add Colmac DH if we wanted to. We can allow multilingual typing. So now we can go in and where is it? That's not the one we want. We can add a language. We can Chechen. Yeah, seems about right. We can add Esperanto. We add QWERTY +1, and we keep it that way, and then we can switch between the two. Where's our test spot? Change our theme. We go with, say, steel gray, and then, yeah. So now we can go back to notes over here. We can switch over here. And our keyboard layout, we can go boink, boink, wait. Go to Esperanto, and we can go skol, or whatever. Or we can switch back to English with QWERTY. Blah, 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 blah. Come on, Colmac. And then we've got our suggestions over here if we need to, and the AI suggesting that runs locally on your phone. And then we can switch back over and go back to here, because of course we can. So Fudo voice input, it's pretty similar all on its own. So we add that, we add that. We grant microphone while using the app. And then we've got, what's really cool is the different models. So on my setup, I've picked up the slightly larger model. We're not going to download that, so yeah. We've got our different languages. You can see the different counts of samples that each language has, and that's really cool. So it can recognize what you're saying. And then, of course, it's got its themes. You don't have custom themes yet, so yeah. So Fork Client is here, is the Telegram client. Fork Client is a fork of Telegram FOSS, which they include default installed. And it seems that Fork has taken over that spot, so I'm not going to go too much into detail. You probably know about it already. Fake Traveler is pretty cool. You can decide I want to be in a different location. So like if you're running a dating app, rather than paying for their premium service to hop around, you just say, hey, I want to be right here. And then I can apply that. Well, I could apply that once I enabled it, but yeah. F-Droid, Entei Photos, I believe is another gallery. Oh, wait. Private backup of stuff. So you can create an account. I don't know how I feel about that. They've got an auth app, so much like Aegis, Entei Auth is your two-factor authentication. DavX is calendar syncing, contact syncing, and whatnot. It's why my contacts broke at SaintCon last year, because I updated it while I was away from home from the Nextcloud. Collabora Office hooks into a Collabora instance and lets you do collaborative documents, view documents, and things like that. Calendar, Fossify Calendar, pretty simple. Brave, I think we all know Brave by now. AntennaPod, I don't think I've done a video on AntennaPod, but basically it's just a podcast management app. We can add a podcast, and it has a few different sources. We can directly add an RSS feed. We can use a local folder as a podcast, so like add our music that way or what all. We can search for Apple Podcasts and a few other podcast places, or import a list through NoPML, which I'm pretty sure it would accept YouTube as that. So it can show us suggestions, but we're not going to do that. We've got our auditor and App Store. So BravePipe is a new pipe fork. So this is one that I was looking at in particular because it's like, okay, whatever. So I can hit allow here. And it looks a lot like your normal new pipe. You go in here and you've got sponsor block pre-built in, which the standard new... Okay. Maximum time was exceeded, so here we go again. So normal new pipe has the sponsor block. Well, this comes with sponsor block built in. Standard new pipe doesn't. This has a couple extra things. Like, it does have the showing dislike stuff extras, dislike count and whatnot. So we've got a whole host of things that you normally find in new pipe. But when I went into the BravePipe settings, or wait, no, where was it? We go over here. I was curious about it, so about FAQ. So new pipe restricts what platforms they add to it. They refuse to add certain ones to it. And so they created this fork of new pipe to kind of allow them to add more platforms to it, like BitChute and Rumble, which the standard developers find classify as offensive. And if you could add your own platforms like in GrayJ, that's probably what I would do. But they didn't do that, so BravePipe is here coming along and saying we want to allow BitChute and Rumble to work in new pipe. And it's kind of like the pipe or anime pipe that is a fork of new pipe that adds Bilibili and a couple other things to new pipe as sources. But just due to the standard nature of the way that a lot of these programs work, a lot of these websites will work just fine. YouTube DLP lets you download Rumble and a bunch of other videos if you want to. So, FF Updater is for Firefox forks. We have the Brave browser that, does it install Brave for us? Wow, based on Firefox, good privacy browsers. So it has a whole suite of browsers that you can manage straight from inside the app here, including email applications, which that's really cool. Better than Chrome, good security browsers, or good privacy browsers. Chrome is one that I've daily driven for quite a while. Ironfox is another good one. Based on Firefox, IceRaven browser. I don't think I've come across that one before. But yeah, you can install Firefox separately or install one of the forks there. So we could go in Thunderbird and install the latest version if we wanted to. They're kind of out of date, which I guess it's complaining about. But you can install it that way. So there are a couple things that I would do when you're first starting out with something like the Ghost phone in this particular configuration. So GrapheneOS has their default app store. And what I would say would be a good addition is to come in here and install a Crescent, which is another app store that you can pre-install from there that has other apps on top of it. So once we go into here, we can see we've got a Crescent up installed here, and it will do background downloads and updates all automatically on its own without you having to do a thing, which is really cool about a Crescent. You give it that permission. And then if you've got F-Droid around, you've got the option for the Aurora store. I would install Droidify over F-Droid. One, it looks a little bit nicer. Two, it's got other repositories pre-set up that all you have to do is enable it. But yeah, so now we allow notifications here. All we've got to do is refresh this. The suite of a Crescent apps that are available is actually pretty cool. So we've got organic maps in here. We've got an Uprising or Revolt client, which is kind of like Discord. Cape is one that was added in the last couple of weeks. It's basically a private phone service that you can get that runs on basically voice over IP. Qlingo for learning languages, just a video player. Then you've got your Cake Wallet and Cupcake, both do the same thing, Flashlight. Then you've got icon themes, which is interesting because the developer of GrapheneOS doesn't seem to want to implement certain features from Lineage, but, well, I don't know if he manages the Crescent stuff, but a Crescent is added into the GrapheneOS repositories for the App Store there. So, yeah. Clippius, video player for YouTube. Privacy front end, you know that deal. Exif Eraser. ULauncher is another minimal one. It's the one that I actually use in my Field Nation profile. And it's really nice because I have that dialed down to certain gestures. And that profile has only a few apps enabled that are really, per se, absolutely necessary for working. And yeah, gallery apps, DNSNet, App Verifier, Transcribe. Interprofile sharing is really nice. Molly, a secondary signal client, Hackerspace, IVPN. This one needs a subscription. It's a pretty cheap one if I recall. I was looking at the details. ReMusic is a music player, music app. We've got our Easy Notes as an alternate for note-taking. Blitz, a chess clock. Cryptomator, remind me again. Yeah, encrypts files prior to uploading to cloud. Iron Fox, again, you can install it through here or through FF Updater. Oxio, I think, is a music app that I've shown off before. And then NeoStumbler is for you weird people that like to collect wireless networks. So, it's a short list of apps, so it seems to be really hard to get an app onto a Crescent, but it's there. So I would install that and pick like the apps out of here that you want to install, and then Droidify on top of it. So I could go into F-Droid here, and I can search for Droidify and install. And that's what I would install here. I could install it out in the back otherwise, but yeah. So, yeah, that's everything for the Ghost phone. So if I were going through here based on my workflow, I'd probably keep the Radio Droid around. I'd probably take that one and have it replaced with my other apps, obviously. If I go to mail, I'd have to look into the service. Zorin Connect, I feel like I don't think I'd use that too much. Same with Rust Desk. And then I'd keep BravePipe around because I really like what it does. It basically combines some of the platforms that are available as plugins in GrayJ and works it that way, but yeah. Nextcloud Notes, I think. It's hard to say. I might keep that around just in case. Molvad VPN, it would be kind of on the table for me. I might go with something else like iVPN. Joplin is kind of on the fence. Fake Traveler, I'd probably work on keeping around. Entei Photos and Entei Auth. I use Aegis as mine, so I'd probably take those out. So there's that. And then, let's see, Brave I have for certain things. Calendar. The Fossify calendar, I'm still kind of like iffy on. I've got it installed otherwise, and I've looked at it a couple different times. Iffy still. But when it comes to the pre-installed apps, I think that's where I'm sitting. Is Fork, Magic Earth, KeyPass DX, FF Updater for sure. Collabora Office is there because I'm trying to work with the Nextcloud and figure out a good solution for syncing stuff. For like spreadsheets and whatnot for at-home stuff, but yeah. I think that's pretty much my dialed down setup of like what I would have. There would be other things I'd be installing, of course, but that's the standard one. But now, finally, I can do something that I've been looking forward to, and that is ending the session here. And we roll into here, we go to the ghost, we delete the user, and that's that. So I'm going to go through and install other applications that I think I liked from this setup. But yeah, that's the basics of it. A lot of it I pretty much already have though. So yeah, it's a pretty expansive list that I have installed on my stuff. The other profiles are mostly minimal. Not going to say hide nor hair of what's going on with some of it, but yeah. Fun stuff. If you liked the content, if you enjoyed it, if you think I deserve it, like, comment, subscribe, leave any criticisms you have or what have you. I appreciate it. Feed that algorithm, like I said, and I will see you guys in the next one.